2025 is almost over, and it has been a crazy year for the amusement industry. With many openings, too many closures, 2025 was one of the years of all time. And for me, it was definitely better than the previous years, 2024 and 2023. If you're new here, it's normally a tradition on the channel that on every New Year's Eve, I reveal what my top 25 favorite roller coasters are. As for this year, I've ridden 19 new roller coasters in 2025, which is the most I've done so far. And that spreads across the two main theme parks in Virginia, and a ride that I've been avoiding spoilers for many years. Out of those 19, 7 of those roller coasters were good enough to gain an entry into my top 25, so that means 7 other coasters from last year's list had to get kicked off. So let's start off the video with highlighting the ones that were bumped off. So on last year's list, it featured Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa. This is a multi-looper which is running a little bit better since it's really long closure, but the corkscrews do need some love. It is very shaky there. Kumba isn't the worst thing ever, but it's not great. Afterwards, we have Valraven. Valraven is good, but the factor that is pushing it back is the vest restraints. They are really restrictive and don't allow you to get much airtime nor hang time. Well, except for that final inversion. That is something else. Overall, pretty solid. Next up is the iconic Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios. This ride was so ahead of its time. I love the cutouts that you fly past along with the forces. It is by far Disney's most intense roller coaster, but it's not the most fun. We'll get to that later. It does have some headbanging and it is pitch black in there, so be prepared for that. But rest in peace the Aerosmith theme. Next up is the fun one, Cheetah Hunt. This was slightly closed on my most recent visit, but this ride is so much fun. It's not too crazy, but it's not boring. The barrel roll has some good hang time, and I love how you pass over the Serengeti. The restraints do suck though, and that's why it's an honorable mention. Afterwards is Icebreaker. I do like Icebreaker, it's just the placement inside SeaWorld Orlando that I don't like. It is so tucked back there that I actually haven't ridden it a crap ton, which is about 5 times. But the ride itself is pretty good. The spike has some good floater, but that little airtime pop rising up into the top height is the strongest airtime moment in SeaWorld Orlando. Besides that, the trains suck, so overall it's pretty decent. Staying at SeaWorld, right across the pond is Kraken. This is the roller coaster that I don't like and also like at the same time. For instance, the layout is great and it makes great use of trenches, but the ride has a pretty bad rattle, so that knocks it down. It is definitely smoother towards the front as well. Now for the last honorable mention, I'm definitely going to be given some flack by a lot of Kings Island fans, but that is the Beast. Sure that the coaster goes into the woods and the double helix is absolutely fantastic, but the layout is very bizarre and it doesn't ride the best, and that random trim in the middle does not help at all. If you're still here, that's pretty crazy that you're stuck around for this long. But first, let's go over some metrics before the actual list. So let's start with manufacturers. So in this list, it is going to feature 13 B&Ms, 4 RMCs, 3 Intamins, 2 GCIs, and then some fringe such as 1 Aero, 1 Zero, and 1 Vekoma. As for parks, the winner is a tie between Cedar Point and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, both featuring 5, and there are also 4 at Kings Island and Dollywood, 3 at SeaWorld Orlando, 2 at Busch Gardens Tampa, and 1 at both Kings Dominion and Walt Disney World. I'm still trying to keep that ride vague, but I'm pretty sure that is it for metrics, which means we can start the list. So coming in at number 25, we are going to a theme park that is new for me for 2025, which is Busch Gardens Williamsburg, widely considered to be one of the most prettiest parks out there, and I do agree as well. Towards the left side of the park, you'll hit up the Oktoberfest area, and that area features the only zero roller coaster on this list, Verbolten. This is the first new coaster credit for me that has made the list, and wow, this ride is so much fun. Let's start off with the launch into the indoor section. That has some good pull. Then in the indoor show building, there were some unexpected forces in there, along with all the theming that you whiz past. It reminded me a little bit of Rock and Roller Coaster. And spoiler alert, then comes the drop track, which was a nice surprise to my aunt. I didn't tell her about it. Then the second launch was good. The drop near the Rhine River had a fun visual, and the S-bends toward the end have some good laterals. And as add-ons, the restraints are comfortable and it's smooth, but the German girl spilling on how to ride can drive you nuts. I say this every time I'm coming to a close about Verbolten, but if we're saying. So next up at number 24, we are heading to a park that has so much charm, which is Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. This is still one of my all-time favorite parks with its coaster collection and homey feel. Towards the middle of the park, aka the Wilderness Pass area, we are going to fly like an eagle on Wild Eagle. This is still one of the most underrated roller coasters I've ridden yet. I've always been hearing people giving the Eagle flack for being forceless, and the vest restraints really crush your torso, but when I rode it, my expectations were blown. It had some pretty good forces in the valleys, and the vests don't crush your torso. And since I love that feeling of being upside down for a while, also known as hang time, that is why it still has an entry into my top 25. The ride is glass smooth too, and the layout isn't the longest, but it's mighty. Next time that I'll ride this, I'll make sure to try it in the front because my 2 rides for right now took place in the back. Overall, great ride. Now for number 23, we're going up to my old home park, which is Kings Island in Mason, Ohio, and right outside of Cincinnati. Towards the left side of the park, you might hear this blood-curdling scream, and that is how you know Banshee is about to cycle. Banshee is very sentimental to me. This was my first big roller coaster, and it introduced me to going upside down, but for the ride itself, it's pretty solid. Sure, it doesn't ride the best, but at least it has a unique layout for being an invert. We are used to ones that slap you in the face with forces, but on Banshee, it's very graceful and floaty. The star moment is easily the last inversion with that slow barrel roll. You get crazy hang time on it, and the pretzel knot has some good forces, and the helix has stronger forces than you expect, but it is not fun winning on the brake run. Since the vests have no mercy, it's very hard to breathe there, so that is why Banshee has been knocked down a few spots. Now on to number 22, we're going back down south to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This coaster is actually not that far from Verbolten. If you walk down the path that connects Oktoberfest over to Germany, you'll hit up Alpengeist. This is the second being an invert that has made the list, and it is crazy. My biggest complaint about the ride is that the mid-course just slams you to a stop, and that is a major buzzkill. But if you ignore that, it has a great first half, but but a slow second half. All the valleys at first have really good positives, and the Cobra roll is very snappy, and it has a little pinch of Banshee how it's a little graceful, especially with the Immelman, but the second half leaves a lot to be desired. I do really like this coaster, I just wish the mid-course was more gentle. If it was, this would easily take a spot in my top 20, so barely cracking into the top 20. We're going back up north to a place like no other, which is Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. This park has some fantastic rides such as Steel Vengeance and Maverick, but don't sleep on the ride that's taking the number 21 spot. When you pull up to Cedar Point, one of the first roller coasters you're guaranteed to see is Gatekeeper. This is their wing coaster, and just like Wild Eagle, it's still very underrated. Definitely the most underrated ride at Cedar Point in my opinion. Let's start off with the wing over drop. It feels really weird, but it has some nice flow exiting it, and sure, it isn't the most forceful thing ever, but you can't deny that it works in Cedar Point skyline, especially with the keyholes. You have to take a photo or video of it when you're entering the park. It's a must. I've also created a review for Gatekeeper not too long ago, so you can check that out for more in-depth thoughts. To sum it up, very floaty, the vests don't crush your torso, and it's a great roller coaster in the marathon since it isn't too crazy. But a ride that is crazy has made the top 20. We're going back down south to Dollywood. Not too far away from the Eagle is one of the most fun roller coasters that I know of, which is Tennessee Tornado. This is a ride that I hope lives forever. It is so much fun. It isn't the longest thing ever, but it packs in one good punch. The first drop has some nice flow, along with the first inversion with that huge loop. The two other inversions have crazy forces. I also love how it uses the terrain to perfection, and for a ride that was built back in 1999, it runs like a dream. I barely have any complaints except for the length, but I really hope I get to ride this again someday. Now coming in at the number 19 spot, we are heading back down to Florida for my home park for 2025, which was SeaWorld Orlando. When this ride was announced, everybody thought it was going to be a dumb idea to bring back one of the most hated ride models out there, including me. Back in the day, I thought it was going to be a big failure, but as soon as people rode it, they thought Pipeline was outstanding, and I agree with them. This is the only B&M surf coaster in the States as of December 2025, and Pipeline is great, as long as you follow some requirements, which is that you should ride it in the odd-numbered rows, because the even-numbered rows have a very bad shuffle. Plus, the vests come down harder onto you during the ride, so at the end, you just end up all smushed, and it is not comfortable. If SeaWorld can find a way to make that not happen, that would make this jump up even higher. Besides that, the sensation of getting airtime while standing up is so fun. There needs to be a surf coaster where it has all camelback hills, kind of like a hybrid coaster layout like Mako. I forgot to add this, but the launch has some good pull along with a great pop of airtime. I love this thing, just wish the vests were more gentle. Now on to the number 18 spot in my top 25. We're heading back up north to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Next door to Alpengeist is the France area of the park, and the main ride there is the mythical Griffin. Out of the 3 dive coasters I've ridden as for now, this is my favorite, and that's because it's one of the smoothest roller coasters ever. It feels like you're riding on a cloud, and I do take this over my home park dive coaster, SheiKra. It's prettier, it rides better, the layout is better in my opinion. I just love Griffins so much, and to not sound repetitive, I deeply love the rest of the roller coasters on this list. So coming in at number 17 is a ride also at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Instead, this ride is in the Italy section of the park, and you'll see it when driving up to the tolls. It's Apollo's Chariot. In my opinion, this is the most underrated ride at this park. I've heard, yeah, it's not that great, it doesn't give the strongest airtime, and it's pretty forceless, so I had medium expectations, and they were exceeded. The camelbacks had stronger flow to airtime than I was expecting. I also love how it banks up right against the Rhine River, and it ran pretty well, and not a lot of shuffling. The placement is gorgeous too. Overall, Apollo is a great ride, but not perfect. And now we're going to leave Busch Gardens Williamsburg alone until we are in the top 10. So at number 16, we're going back to my old home park, Kings Island. Some people say that this is the best ride here, but I don't personally agree. I do think it is the best wooden coaster here though. That is Mystic Timbers. The reason why this isn't the best ride at Kings Island is that every year it gets worse. But I will preface by saying I do have a low tolerance for wooden roller coasters. I haven't ridden it in 2025, but I have ridden it in 2024, and it was bouncing all over the place. And I can say that because the year prior, I rode Thunderhead at Dollywood, and that thing is butter smooth for a wooden coaster, and we are going to talk about that ride later. Don't get me wrong, Mystic has a great layout, great ejector pops, and the shed sucks, but this is the most overrated roller coaster at Kings Island in my opinion. But does that mean it's bad? Heck no, Mystic is fantastic, and I do get why it gets so much hype. Overall, it is amazing, but it could use a little retrack. On to the number 15 spot, let's head back to Florida and SeaWorld Orlando. This is the ride that people normally make their first stop, and that is Manta. This is the only flying coaster I've ridden for right now, and it's really cool. Sucks that I lost a charging brick on it, but that's on me. For the ride experience, it is wild. The standout moment is easily the pretzel loop. You get shoved up against it so hard that it takes the wind out of you. The rest of the ride does feel like you're flying. It's also cool how you go over water at one point, and when you're passing by some rockwork, your knees might get soaked. I swear, that happens to me every single time. But Manta is not the smoothest thing ever. It does have a little shuffle, but it's not bad. It's just noticeable. Besides that, Manta is great. I also don't mind how the restraints make you feel like you're in there. Like you're not going anywhere when you pull down that vest. Overall, really fun. Sticking with B&M, at number 14, let's head back to the roller coaster capital of the world, Cedar Point. Earlier, we discussed Gatekeeper. That is at the front of the park towards the right side, but if you head towards the left side, you'll hear the iconic roar of Raptor. I've only gotten 2 rides on this for right now, which took place in 2022, and it was both in the front, and I love those 2 experiences. Raptor is a forceful ride, but it's not as intense as a ride we'll hit up in a second, but at least the layout is great with the 6 inversions, all of them being really snappy, and don't forget the double helix at the end. That is by far the best part of the ride in my opinion. It has so much positive forces that you hardcore gray out. As for a negative, there was a nasty transition into the brakes, so I wish that was a bit more gentle. Overall, Raptor is amazing. That is a wild ride. I'm definitely riding this in the back row next time I visit Cedar Point again. So at lucky number 13, it is a ride that is very similar to Raptor. So let's head back down to Florida for an even crazier version of Raptor called Montu. And for this segment, I'm going to be showing a backwards POV, and that's because the line for the front row when I went to Busch Gardens was insane. But anyway, Montu is an incredible coaster. The bowing is insane and the pacing never stops. There's a reason why this is the best B&M inver in the world, and with every B&M from the 90s, the roar never gets old. It was very refreshing to ride this again on the day before Thanksgiving. To sum it up, love Montu. Hopefully the front row line next time won't be as bad. So at number 12, we are heading back to one of the most charming theme parks I visited, which is back up north with Dollywood. For this ride, I see why people take this over the standout ride at this park, and that is Thunderhead. Holy crap, Thunderhead is by far the best wooden roller coaster I've ridden yet. Out of my 3 rides, the pacing just blew my mind. It was flying. The reason partially it was running so fast that day is because it was raining, and the maintenance crew over at Thunderhead is really taking care of it like a child. The layout is fantastic, it rides butter smooth for a wooden coaster, and the trains feel like a couch. The thing that sucks with riding new roller coasters every year is that your favorites keep dropping, and Thunderhead is one of those outliers. I still deeply love this ride, but it's really sad seeing it drop down a few spots while I ride new rides that place above it. And speaking of roller coasters that keep dropping, at the number 11 spot, we are heading back up north to my old home park with Kings Island. This roller coaster is incredible, but the reason why it's not higher is because of its rattle. I'm talking about Diamondback. Sorry mommy for watching this, but Diamondback is officially out of my top 10. But hey, everything in the top 15 is at least a 9 out of 10. And sure, Diamondback isn't the smoothest, but it's still really fun. It has a lot of floated air time, and I love the splashdown, especially if you're in the very back and lean over a bit. You just get drenched. There are also 2 helixes that deliver fun positive forces, and with every B&M Hyper, the clamshell restraint is one of the best restraints in the world. Overall, a fantastic ride that keeps dropping every year. Now let's head across the pathway for Kings Island's other hyper coaster, Orion, which will start off the top 10. Orion is a great giga coaster, and sure that it isn't the smoothest, but at least the layout is very unconventional. The outlier is with the wave turn. It is a tiny bit slow, so it would have been nice if Kings Island lowered the height on that. The moment that caught everyone's eye as soon as Orion opened is this little off-axis hill that delivers crazy airtime. Like, how is that puny thing better than the 300-foot drop? I also gotta shout out the Speed Hill and Helix. That has great airtime, and you hardcore gray out during the Helix. But overall, the layout is great, I love the restraints, and it's due for a repaint. So at number 9, let's head to the other Ohio park, Cedar Point. I'm definitely going to get some flack for this if you don't really like this ride, but I'm gonna put it out there and say Millennium Force is at the number 9 spot. Holy crap, this thing is wild. Last time I rode this was back in July 2022, and I still remember how insane that first drop was. All you have is that tiny little T-bar holding you in place, and it really does feel like you're gonna take a nosedive into Lake Erie. And sure that the layout isn't the best, but this was the first ever giga coaster. And I'll also add this is my first roller coaster manufactured by Intamin, so I really started off with a bang. It could also use a little bit of work in the smoothness department. That's because I remember at the bottom of the first drop, there was a pothole, but next time I visit Cedar Point, I'll try to get a few more laps on this ride. So at number 8, we're heading back down to Florida and SeaWorld Orlando. This is my most ridden coaster, and if you visit this place, you have to marathon this ride. I'm talking about Mako. If I had to describe this ride with one word, it would be addicting, because the ride is butter smooth, it has so much floater airtime, and I'm not exaggerating here, it never gets a long line. Well, unless if you go to SeaWorld on a really crowded day. But the longest line I had to wait for this was around 20 minutes. As for the ride, it's fantastic. The first drop is amazing, the camelback with 5 seconds of floater airtime is a bliss, and I love how SeaWorld themed it up near the entrance to the ride. I've also ridden this 23 times in one day before. That is how addicting Mako is. I will miss it because I switched my annual SeaWorld pass over to Disney, so it will suck not marathoning this as often. But great that I'll be marathoning Guardians, but we are going to talk about that ride later. I also forgot to mention that the music that plays throughout the area is such a vibe. Overall, love Mako. Make sure to ride it in the back. So at number 7, let's head back to a park that we haven't talked about in a while, which is Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This roller coaster really surprised me, so let's harness the speed and strength of 5 Roman gods as we conquer Pantheon. Oh my gosh, Pantheon is amazing. This is easily the star of the show at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but I really wish they themed it up. It would have been cool if there were some columns in the queue and the station would be themed to the actual Pantheon in Rome, but it's the ride experience that matters for now. One of the moments of this ride is while you launch backwards and going over the speed hill, and that caught me off guard. You can hear me in this clip that would say it all, but it still doesn't do it justice though. Wow! And yeah, you can tell that backwards airtime pop was very aggressive. I do like the layout as well with the 0G winder to start the ride. That has amazing hang time, and then the top hat isn't trimmed, which I love. The outer bank could have been better, but it's decent. And then the stall is great too. I definitely prefer the back because the forces hit harder versus the front. And as for every new ride, it runs like a dream. I'll also add that the restraints are amazing, but to sum it up, Pantheon is outstanding. So sticking with launch coasters, let's head back down to Tennessee and Dollywood. Thank goodness that this ride isn't breaking down as much, but it's not as good now, which is Lightning Rod. Back when this ride had its launch lift hill, this was in my top 5, but after the renovations that Dollywood made to it in 2024, that just bumped it down. Might as well call it chain rod. But straying away from my personal thoughts, landing rod is really good. The launch little had so much force, and that initial kick at the bottom was really fun. The quad down is really cool how it kept going down and down. The first wave turn was floaty and graceful, and it was not as rough as I thought. People were saying that it had a rattle in the back, but I didn't notice it. This is the first of 4 RMCs to be featured in my top 10, and this is the weakest one. But everything in the top 10 is an outstanding ride, so I'm not calling it bad. So at the halfway mark at number 5, let's head back up to the coaster capital of the world with Cedar Point. This ride doesn't look that big, but this is a great example of the saying, never judge a book by its cover. I'm referring to Maverick. Maverick was so ahead of its time back in 2007. That was when parks were trying to break every record, but as soon as people rode Maverick, stats didn't really matter anymore, and Maverick is the reason why rides such as Pantheon exist. But it is a wild ride though. The first drop has a little kink to it, and it shocks me when I rode it. The twisted horseshoe roll has great whip, and the second launch, holy crap, that's a crazy launch. The restraints aren't the best, but this would be even crazier if it just had lap bars. It's pretty smooth too. Overall, looks small, but it's absolutely stellar. So at number 4, people who are obsessed with break your neck and slaps you in the face with forces rides will definitely give me flack for what I'm about to do. But I'm breaking these rides by how much fun I have on them, and this roller coaster that is placed at number 4 is not the most intense thing ever, but it's one of the most fun roller coasters ever, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Yep, that's right, a Disney coaster is in my top 5, but Guardians is something special. Let's start off with the pre-launch section. Disney did a great job theming up this section of the ride. Then the backwards launch has some decent pull, the screens inside the big shield building are so crisp and sleek, passing through the jump points is so cool, and the second launch is pretty good. The reason why this is so fun to marathon is that one of 6 songs can affect your ride, and if you get your favorite one, that's gonna be an out-of-body experience. And if you're curious, my favorite song is by far Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Sure, that is not the fastest song ever, but hearing that song while launching backwards is so dang euphoric, and you're guaranteed to scream in joy or cry in joy. Especially in row 9, nothing will ever top that. But September is at a close second. Here's my rankings on the songs on Guardians. This ride is the main reason why I'm switching to a Disney Pass for the 2026 season. You cannot go to Epcot while trying to get all 6 songs on this ride, and with the train's control, spin just adds another level of thrill. I also want to shout out the moment that Rocket says, yeah, we get that all the time. The track turns around, but the vehicle is facing backwards, and that moment is so much fun. And orbiting the moon is so cool. I can honestly talk about this ride all day. I would say it's worth it to the trip to Florida just for this ride. I cannot wait to marathon this again, and hopefully experience the ride with Disco Inferno because I haven't gotten that song yet as for now. Now we're in the top 3, and we are going to get very heavy with RMC, starting back up north with Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This is easily the best roller coaster I've ridden in Virginia as for now, but I know the best is Pantherian, but that was closed when I visited. But back to Timbers, this ride legitimately feels like you're on a mechanical bull, because there are so many bunny hops that have very sharp pops of ejector airtime. After 5 rides, I got purple bruises on my thighs, so that's how you know this ride is no joke. So if you're gonna marathon this when you visit King's Dominion soon, be warned, you'll get bruises. Besides that, there's a lot of amazing airtime pops, the barrel roll down drop and barrel roll have amazing hang time, and with every RMC, it's butter smooth. Just getting that out of the way for the next 2 spots. The layout is great as well, and overall, I can't wait to get back on this when I ride Pantherian someday. So at number 2, this was the best roller coaster in the world back in its time, and this still places very high on everyone's top 10 lists, and that is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Steel Vengeance is absolutely legendary. This has the most airtime out of any ride in the world, and this was my number 1 after I rode it. The airtime is insane, the first drop is mental, and I love in the second half, you're in the ride structure while getting non-stop ejector airtime. I just love that feeling of being in a ride structure. But you can tell in the second half that Cedar Point was trying to get a record. So there's just bunny hop after bunny hop, and it can get a little repetitive, but that's just me being nitpicky. Outside of that, I'm devastated that I've only gotten 1 ride on this coaster, but at least it was in the second to back, and I'm definitely getting more rides next time I come to Cedar Point. Overall, absolutely amazing, but it's not as good as my favorite roller coaster of all time, which is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. If you watched last year's list, you're probably not shocked, but what else can I pick to be my number 1? But with the changes that Busch Gardens did this year to Gwazi, this ride has a new major con, the metal detectors. That makes this ride an upcharge if you have bags with you, but for the ride itself, it is ethereal. The layout is fantastic, the death roll is heavenly, the first drop is even scarier than Steel Vengeance's drop. I would take this over Vengeance because it isn't as much of a workout. I also have to shout out the huge overbank turn. The airtime there is so strong, and speaking of strong airtime moments, the wave turn, whoa, that is something else. You can see how crazy it is right here. And that was my first ride in over a year and a half. I forgot how crazy that moment was. I have also gotten a night ride on it, and holy crap, that ride was out freaking standing. Overall, you have to ride this sometime in your life. It is just way too good. So before ending off the video, let's go over a few roller coasters that just didn't make the list. These are spots 30 to 26, so this will be a quick segment. So at number 30 is Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando, a solid looping coaster, but I can't stand the rattle. Number 29, Rapterra at King's Dominion. Same reason as Kraken here. Great first third, but after the S hill, it's just kind of okay, not counting the speed hill. Number 28 is She-Ra of Busch Gardens Tampa. She-Ra really jumped on my list after my most recent ride in November of 2025. The front is really fun. Number 27 is Dominator at King's Dominion. I love this ride, but due to the rides at Busch Gardens Williamsburg and Guardians, it got kicked off. And at number 26 is the Beast. Sorry Dad if you're watching this, but the Beast is such a legendary coaster, and for the same reason as Dominator, Guardians bumped it off. So that is the top 25 best roller coasters I've ridden as of 2025. It is crazy that this year is going to be over very soon. It has been the best year for me while living in Florida so far. Definitely a top 5 year for me. I've ridden so many new roller coasters, I visited places that I thought I would never visit so soon, and I made so many incredible memories this year that will last for a lifetime. So happy new year, and make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping, and I will see you in 2026.